Welcome. I am delighted to welcome you to the Women Funded 2021, the biennial conference co-convened by the Women's Funding Network membership and made possible through the support of our generous sponsors. As many of you know, the Women's Funding Network is the largest philanthropic alliance in the world, made up of women's funds, foundations, gender justice funders, and all who create a world that's more safe, more just, and equitable for all of us. We're over 120 members strong, with over $450 million in annual grant making, with a global reach of members and attendees from 11 countries, North and South America, Africa, and Europe. Every other year for over 20 years, we've convened as colleagues to share what's working and share what's challenging, explore funding strategies, and ignite opportunities for cross-sector collaboration, leaving not only with concrete plans, but also with new friends and co-conspirators for the work ahead. Admittedly, this conference is unlike any other before. We're shaking loose from the grips of a global pandemic. We're not together in person. We're fatigued, we're grieving, and we're continuing to absorb the unrelenting sadness and pain from the world around us. We want more than anything to connect, to revive, to live again in a world where wearing shoes to meetings and complaining about HR is the biggest thing of our day. Well, maybe we can do without the politics of the office break room. But the point is, the world is different today, more different than it has ever been since WFN has started convening conferences. And we only have a few precious hours together to make sure that no matter how sick of Zoom you are, you're tuned in, you're looking forward to every single minute. That's why I'd like to introduce this year's theme with a story, my story. I'm the daughter of Mexican immigrants, and I was born and raised in the majority white American US state of Nebraska. And while I'll say that most people I grew up with were polite and neighborly, I was only 5 when a white woman threatened to call police on me for accidentally walking into her house. And I was only 17 when my uncle, who didn't understand English, was misidentified and beaten to death by a white female police officer and her partner. Like many of my fellow colleagues from marginalized genders and communities of color, I unfortunately have hundreds of these personal stories. But Audre Lorde once said, I was going to die sooner or later, whether or not I had ever spoken myself. My silences had not protected me. Your silences will not protect you. What are the words you do not have? What are the tyrannies you swallow day by day and attempt to make your own until you will sicken and die of them, still in silence? We have been socialized to respect fear more than our own need for language. That's why this year's theme, the Feminist Factor, is an opportunity to have a new and expansive conversation about the critical frameworks that guide and distinguish much of our collective work. We have faced the layered challenges of racism, sexism, health disparities, a global pandemic, climate change, institutional violence, and autocratic threats to democracy. It is ever more essential that we grapple with both our painful and joyous feminist movement history. Feminism, rooted in our interconnected liberation, is our strength and our challenge. Together, we can forge a movement that can withstand the current and upcoming tests. Together, we can continue shaping a more just and more equitable future for all of us. I am proud to be by your side. And as we celebrate our history, we must also look forward to how feminism can continue to grow its intersectional and inclusive principles. And we have to keep moving forward to a new concept of equality that provides justice, safety, and opportunities for all of us. Across the COVID-19 response plans and recovery efforts, marginalized genders and communities of color have led the way. They have consistently championed and deployed 3 main approaches to philanthropy that are driving a sustained systemic change for all of us. Number 1, pooled funding for maximized impact and minimized risk. Number 2, implementing a democratic and shared approach to governance and resource development, and enabling locally led, context-specific solutions. I am proud to say that together, our alliance strives to embody these principles and practices. As funds and foundations that center the unique needs of women and girls, we have an opportunity to remake the system that has been broken for so long. But only if at the very heart of our decision-making are those whose voices we seek to advance. It is fundamental that we incorporate local voices and local solutions into the very structure we seek to build. Only then can we make long-lasting structural change. Each of us have the power to make this change. Vote for women and women of color representatives that will champion community-based solutions. Give generously to organizations on the front line of change, including your local women's fund or foundation. Women's funds are system change institutions that multiply every size gift 10 times, primarily by supporting women of color-led organizations that are mapping inclusive economy built on racial and gender equity and justice. There is only one antidote to the poison of silence and inaction. Find your feet, stand up, stand with us. Together we fight, together we win.